Northern Ontario's winter road system. To some, it may seem like a series of trails carving through the wilderness of the far north. But to many, they are an important lifeline to goods and services during the colder months of the year. Without these routes, the already high price of living in the far north would be substantially higher as they link people to many goods and services like milk, groceries, clothing, office and building supplies, and many other goods that otherwise could not make it into the community in a timely manner without air flight. So, what is it like actually living in one of these communities? How important are these roads? What would happen if a permanent road were built? Earlier this year, NW Live traveled to Sandy Lake First Nation, where we posed that question to Cheif Adam Fiddler. Many people have seen the TV show. Obviously, it doesn't relate to Ontario, Ice Road Truckers, but it's a vital lifeline for people in First Nation communities in our region. Can you kind of tell me the significance of the roads?
Yeah, it is the lifeline for our communities to get in a lot of our supplies through the winter roads. Now, just to clarify. A lot of people who are not familiar with our winter road system, we'll call them ice roads. The fact is, on our route to Red Lake, it's probably 250 kilometers. Out of that 250 kilometers, maybe 15, 20 kilometers is on the ice. So a lot of it is actually just through the bush. It's basically a trail through the bush that is, the snow is packed down and it's plowed and it's smoothened out so that you can drive maybe 40 to 50 kilometers an hour, but when that road opens, it tremendously improves the lives of our people, because you can bring in goods, materials, food, groceries for much lower price. To fly in goods, of course, the airline industry is suffering just like everybody else with high fuel costs, so they have to increase their rates. So it costs a lot of money to bring in even fresh products by freight. But when you can bring in materials on the winter road, dry goods, of course you can't bring in fresh produce, that has to still be flown in. But with the high cost of living in the remote north, the road system is our lifeline. And when the roads don't happen, it takes our ridiculously high price of cost of living and makes it even higher.
Okay, now, how long is the road generally open for, and how long does it take to prepare it to the point where you can bring large loads of goods?
Yeah, for our community, unfortunately, we're at the end of the road system. So we rely on several links before we get to the all-season road just north of Red Lake. But generally, our road is open by the end of January to mid to end March. So 2 months would be a good winter road season. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. Sometimes it's shorter. It all depends on the weather. So generally, 6 to 8 weeks is what we're looking at. The ice thickness is a factor, because right off the bat, just north of Red Lake, with the road going up, the winter road system north of Red Lake goes up to North Spirit Lake, up to Deer Lake, and then that's where we connect from. So right off the bat, they have to cross a lake, and you need quite a bit of ice to cross the lake. Generally, I'm told it's roughly about 18 inches you need for a vehicle, 4x4 pickup truck. But to get a transport truck, you need 28 to 30 inches of ice, and that's a lot of ice, so we need a lot of cold weather. So they start working on the roads generally in December. They start packing the road, especially in the bush, pack the snow down. Start plowing if you can get on the ice as soon as possible, as soon as you have enough ice thickness. This year we don't have any snow, so there's not much snow to pack, And the good thing is that when you have a lot of snow early in the winter, it insulates the ice so that the ice doesn't thicken. This year we didn't have a whole lot of snow, so the ice is thickening. The problem is in the bush. It's basically a trail through the bush, so we have rock edges, you have roots, you have tree stumps, all kinds of stuff through the bush that will ruin your vehicle. So you need a balance of snow and cold weather.
Now, how long would a trip to Sandy Lake generally take? Say, for instance, by car, or conversely by in one of the large transport trucks?
The transport trucks, it's a little bit different than you and I driving our own personal vehicle. For our own vehicles, when the road is good, on a good driving day, you can probably get to Red Lake 7 to 8 hours from Sandy Lake. Of course, you get to Red Lake, and generally you're going beyond. So if you're going to Dryden, 10 hours. If you're continuing on to Thunder Bay, 13 hours would be a good drive. If the road gets rough, the longest for me personally, I believe, was a 16-hour trip to Red Lake. So of course I was continuing on to Winnipeg that time. So that comes out to a very long trip. For the semis, they have to drive slow on the ice. Yep. They're not allowed, and that's probably on the ice. What do they call that TV show with the ice road truckers? They're not allowed to drive fast on the ice. They have a maximum, and I can't remember what it is, but it might be around 30 kilometers an hour on the ice. Because what happens if they drive too fast, creates waves under the ice, yep. And those waves will cause pressure and possibly lead to the ice cracking. So they have to drive very slow. But when they're driving in the bush, what you have to realize is it's a trail, it's not a road. Yeah. There are certain sections of the road, there's twists and turns, and the road sometimes is barely passable when two vehicles meet each other. So it actually becomes quite dangerous. Sometimes you'll be coming around a corner and you'll see a semi. So they have to drive slow. They're not driving fast at all. So it's a long trip. Oftentimes you'll see semis on the side. They stop and sleep overnight. So it's a long trip, yeah. And it's still expensive. It's still expensive to get goods up, but it's a lot cheaper than flying. Now,
there had been some discussion about the possibility of creating an all-season road up to some or all of the communities in the further north. Is that something you'd like to see? Would that drastically improve the quality of life, or is the remoteness appreciated as well?
I think it's still coming. It's been talked about for years, and there are still reasons to bring up the all-season road. But what we also have to realize is that there will be consequences. There will be implications to opening up the north. And the traditional lands and the traditional territories of our First Nations. At this point, it's fairly inaccessible for anybody to come in and do what they want within our traditional territory. We have to put in place measures in terms of how are we going to deal with somewhat of an outside invasion that will take place once. I mean, this is not territory that will be opened up for anybody to come in. This is our home. This is our land. Our people tell us that they didn't give up the rights to the land when they signed the treaty. So we have to put in place a process where we make sure we have some say, some control what happens to the land once those roads come in. But of course, the economic benefit would be really great. The cost of living would go down, and it would bring benefit to the community. So we have to outweigh, we have to balance, what we want to see for our community. But I believe it's coming. It's going to happen.